Hello, dear friends. It is I, Yeshua, and I'm delighted to be the first presenter in this new series called Panache. Why Panache? Because it is with flair, with panache, with sprinkling of creativity, with a lot of joy, with sprinkling of art, that you can navigate these times of huge change, well, with panache. Because it is what you came to do, to change the suffering into joy, into self love. And part of self love is this being playful, being a lot of fun with yourself, so that your days are full of fun, full of joy, full of flair, full of creativity, full of exploration. And so to come to that space and to allow yourself all of these experiences, you require some good boundaries. And there can be misconception about boundaries, because boundaries, it says that there is some kind of barrier between you and the rest of the world. But that is not true, because your new way of being is actually being vulnerable, being so in touch and aware and conscious of life around you, of everything that you touch, with your feelings, with your new senses that you're continually experiencing. That you don't really, boundaries are not a solid wall. And boundaries also are very flexible. They keep changing and developing, they keep expanding as you're expanding. And yet there is something, there is an uncompromising spirit of within all of this that you need to develop. And I know that, you're coming from all sorts of different cultures in a world where in some cultures, boundaries, well, all cultures are different, but in some cultures, people are not allowed to really have boundaries. Not really, especially if you're certain genders and stuff. So for some, it is quite a challenging thing to be setting those boundaries, to be saying no when you mean no, to be saying yes when you mean yes, and to change that kind of relating with the world where you are looking at others and trying to fulfill their needs by suppressing your yeses and your nos, by suppressing yourself and your own needs and desires. And yet, when you are exploring yourself, when you are allowing yourself to unfold, when you are allowing your soul self to embody within yourself, this is a very, very different way of being. And you need boundaries, huge boundaries, really, because you need that space and time where you're exploring all these new things. And when you're just simply and plainly enjoying yourself, because as you know, the mass consciousness, people within the mass consciousness are crazily busy. Within that crazy, busy, pointless type of tempo, you will not experience yourself. And so, with the boundaries, with this uncompromising, being truthful to yourself, being in honor with yourself, respecting yourself, you also are teaching others to respect themselves, because as you are standing firmly with your boundaries, and so too, perhaps they can see that it is possible. They can see that perhaps it's not even wrong or selfish as what the mass consciousness would like you to believe, but that it actually works, that it actually creates a new found respect for all people involved, not only for yourself, even though initially for some, it can be a huge thing to be saying no, to be saying no to the ways of the world, to be saying no to all of the different values, to be saying no, like I mentioned, to the busyness, to be saying yes to fun, to joy, to self love. which is quite a huge thing, is it not, in this world that feels like apocalyptic chaos at this moment when where we're filming this in July 2021. And so the boundaries, allow yourself really to explore them. Because if you're finding some spaces within your life where it's not working, be open to new ideas, be open to the feelings, be open to the strength that you have to say yes and to say no, to walk away, to walk out. And know that this is a continual occurrence that you will be doing on a continual basis, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing when you walk out on things. It just means that you have changed and you are no longer playing in that particular game, and you walk away. And so you're bound. There are so many different layers to these boundaries, and there is so much on the internet. And by the way, that was a very clever creation, the internet, that you can find out more details. There aren't any wrong or right answers. It is just an exploration of new ways of being. And when you do realize, you see, you can walk along, living your life, and all of a sudden you find out, oh, wow, look at this. I didn't set boundaries here in this space of my life, because as your awareness is growing and expanding, so does your awareness of your boundaries and where you're not keeping the boundaries. It's not like you have that one aha moment and that's it. You continue on a continual basis, reassess your boundaries, and on continual basis you learn to find that courage within you to be able to say no, to be able to make a stand. And with some people you do have to make a stand on quite a number of, in quite a number of different ways, and on a continual basis, because as you are changing your relationship to them, they might not like it because they were deriving a lot of benefits from your weak boundaries. And so, for many people, also, there can be issues of guilt that come up, issues of shame that come up because you perhaps don't feel yourself worthy to have boundaries, worthy to have space, worthy to have time for yourself. You are used to perhaps taking on the responsibilities of others and you doing it on their behalf, but especially family members, perhaps for children also, because you will often find that you do too much. You can do too much for your children, things that perhaps they're already certain age that they can do for themselves. You see, because you may be also deriving the benefit from being needed in an inappropriately, in energetically inappropriate ways. So you will find this two-sidedness of boundary setting, because when you are playing the game you are a full player of that. So when you realize certain boundaries, you also realize certain boundaries, new boundaries that need to be set. You also realize how the old way of relating in that particular situation also benefited you up to then. And so you perhaps may experience some shame, you perhaps may experience some guilt in that way as well, because you realize, wow, look at what I've been doing. Perhaps I didn't realize that I can feel my worthiness, my self-worth, my self-love just from being alive. Perhaps I needed someone else to need me in that way. And so I didn't want to set boundaries, because then I wouldn't get that feeling from them needing me, for example. So there are many, many nuances and issues in this boundary setting. And yet, as you are increasing your level of awareness, increasing your consciousness in this way, you will know that even though you have to go through perhaps some uncomfortable feelings as you are setting new boundaries, that in the end, it gives you more freedom. You experience greater and greater levels of freedom, greater levels of vulnerability, greater levels of mastery, because you create this whole new way of being in the world. And also know that you are not beholden to anybody or anything. You are your own sovereign being, perhaps even if you haven't realized it yet. You are a sovereign souled being that has a right to boundaries, that has a right to your own feelings, to your own experiences, to allowing your soul to be present, to taking that space for yourself within your life circumstances, to allow all of these changes to occur. And you also are not beholden to anybody on the inside. You see, because on the inside, you need to set those boundaries as well, because you might have all these different voices and aspects and all sorts of parts that would continually be pulling you this way and that way and any other way. And you need to be able to say no, because every time that you feel yourself away from your center, you need to be able to come back to that center until that time when you never leave that center, because you have set your boundaries, and all the aspects and facets and voices on the inside know that they cannot pull you anywhere. Fear knows that it can't knock you off your center, that it can't pull you this way or that way or make you run. You see, it's the inner boundaries that are even more important. And so I invite you to this beautiful play, to this beautiful discovery and exploration of your boundaries. For we could talk about boundaries for a very long time, and yet I invite you to feel the energy that has been transmitted and allow that to unfold in your life. Allow that exploration, the playful exploration, the joyful exploration of even things that perhaps sound dry, like boundaries, like setting boundaries, can sound a bit dry, does it not? And yet, the scent of freedom that you can feel, I can feel in you, that boundaries bring to you, it's incredible. The sovereignty, the space to experience your own self, that precious, precious gift from your soul, your own self. It is but undescribable. Thank you, dear friends. Enjoy this amazing time. Enjoy the exploration of boundaries. Make it fun. Make it adventurous. Make it interesting. Allow it, this, all of these concepts, this energy to play with you. Be playful, be joyful, be artistic, be creative with how you experience these things. And so, from my Yeshua and from Alexis, until next time.